Hey,
Hey, how you doing?
pretty good. How about you?
I am doing pretty good as well. Ready to do this coaching lesson.
Yeah, sure.
So, really quickly, just to, I guess, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Slevin from Spain. 31 years old.
Sound like a good guy already.
I don't know, I guess. And I don't know about been playing from Wings of Liberty, coming and going. Loved it pretty much, and well, just trying to improve. I got back because I was watching the tournaments and I enjoyed it so much. And then one day I just went into Reddit and they said, "Check this out, this guy ViBE." And then I started watching your videos from Bronze to GM. And as I told you in the email, I just flip out how this complex game could be somehow easier to play it and
Yeah,
way
man.
more enjoyable.
Step by step. Just gotta take
Yeah,
it step by
exactly.
step. What league are you in again currently?
Right now, well, yeah, it's Platinum 1. I got 3,300 MMR,
Yeah.
but yeah, they put me on Diamond as on the beginning of the season.
All right, nice, dude.
Not playing rank.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
It's pretty good.
pretty happy.
All right. So we can just jump right into it. Just, are you on North America first of all on server?
No, I'm on Europe.
All right. Do you want to do it on Europe instead? We can do it on Europe.
Sure,
Okay, dude.
sure,
I'm getting on EU.
cool.
Uh, how can we do this? I guess I'll
I
just
mean, if
give me your just go to your like friends list and like open it up, and then on the top of it should say your character ID info.
mm-hmm.
And then just give me that in Discord, and I'll add you.
Sure, just give me 1 second. Wait. There you go. Oh, well, without the thingy between.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Sent out an invite. Okay, there we go. All right. So
Cool.
when this starts, just I'm gonna give you leader. You can host up the replay with watch with others, and then just make me the lobby host
Sure.
before we start.
Okay. Let's say, what was it? Let me just find it 1 second.
So what time is it for you right now? Is it like 2 in the morning or something?
3 a.m.
Yeah, damn.
That's why I'm a little bit zombie.
You're hardcore, dude.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, I'm just drinking a little bit of Red Bull right now.
Nice.
Just a bit, because otherwise I go just like so crazy. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Is it, fuck me, what is it? It's,
Yeah, this is a coaching
oh
lesson, by the
man,
way, guys.
this is so embarrassing. Just give me 1 second. What the hell? Okay, I got it in front of me and I didn't know.
All right, all right. Let's see this. This is let's see what matchup this is. It's gonna be
Just
a
give me 1 second. I'll give you a promo to lobby host. I think I sin off not being scouting enough and not knowing what my opponent is doing in this game. But well, you'll see. You'll see. I mean,
okay.
and probably a lot more. But
All right. So, you know, I'll look at your opener and give you some ideas on things you might be able to improve upon, and
sure.
you know, stuff like that. But it's gonna be interesting. We're doing a PvT. We got a platinum level Protoss versus Terran. We're looking at it from the Protoss's perspective. It really kind of comes. I feel like Protoss. It really comes down to you have to be really straightforward with what you want to do. You have to either be like the defensive guy who wants to go for in-game battle, and you want to just like overwhelm late, which it sounds like that's probably what your goal is going to be. I assume.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
The safe.
Yeah, and the other way is like you just be ultra aggressive. But yeah, if you're going to be defensive, it's definitely kind of up to like how much economy you're going to be taking, and how quickly you're going to be doing it. I like your positioning, by the way, so far. That's good. It's super helpful for a Reaper. I think your
Yeah.
scout timing is great. Just because if your opponent opens up with a Reaper, I think the timing of what you sent the probe is going to get in and out and safely and not die. But you also will discover, you know, if you're going to get proxied or something like that, so it's super useful. But right now, so you got walled in, which is, it's okay. But
Yeah.
right now, I would love it. I hope you scout the gases. Okay, you're scouting the first one. The second one's also super important. And I'm gonna pause it really quick. Say what you're gonna say.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep interrupting you.
Oh no! Please go ahead.
Okay.
If anything, I'll tell you.
Okay.
Sorry.
So the first gas is important to see because you're like, all right, he looks like he's going for a Reaper, and you know, if he only has one gas, it's a guarantee that that's what he's doing. But now, if you see a second gas on his base, that's already going as well, this might not be a Reaper. It still could or couldn't be. It doesn't really matter at that point, but it means he's going to delay his natural, and he's going to be going for a really quick like factory. And you might be looking at something like maybe really fast Hellions. You might be looking at really fast like Banshee, Liberator, something like that. Or even like a Cyclone super quick, or just something more tech-oriented, faster after the barracks. So, but if you don't see a second gas, you can guarantee that it's going to be a command center. It's just going to be the Reaper with a command center. So it's really, really, really important to scout double gas because it tells you how safe you need to be. And a good way to respond to it would be like, if I only see one gas from Terran and I know he's going to Reaper expand, I can just take a natural, like for instance, before I even take my cybernetics core. You can take it really greedy. Like you can take it now. But if you think it's going to be like, let's say fast factory and it's going to be something more aggressive, maybe you should instead build like a faster core yourself, like core first and then Nexus. Because now you need to worry more about like the potential like huge timing that could hit you and maybe just ruin all your probes, like 4 Hellions or something, or 2 Hellions and a Reaper, something like that. But yeah, so seeing that gas is important, but we'll continue from here for seeing how your build's gonna go. So with if you're gonna go for a Nexus first, pull a probe off your mineral line at 300. And the reason why, also that core, woo, a little high. That core just ruined your gas saturation.
Okay, I messed up so much always because I don't know how to like make a wall for the Reaper. I mean, yeah,
so it's the only thing that's wrong with it is it's 1 pixel too high.
Okay, then.
Because it's kind of hard to tell if you just eyeball it, but if you take your mouse and you just make well, if you take your mouse and you green box it over where the core touches the Nexus, you can see a lot of overlap there.
Yeah, the corners.
Yeah, what that means is it's way more than just the corners. So you have 2 pixels already touching each other on the Nexus and the core. You just need 1 pixel touching.
Okay, I thought I needed to put it like a little bit up so the Reaper can cross over there.
Yeah, because if you put it 1 down, there will still there will still be overlap, but it'll just be 1 pixel overlap. The only way a Reaper can fit through is if it's no overlap at all and it's exactly corner to corner, because then it creates this little tiny hole that small units can fit through.
Yeah.
So yeah, 1 pixel down would be perfect on the core, or on the core placement. But if this ever does happen to you in a future game, another way you can fix this, because your probes are going to be really dumb the whole game otherwise, is you can tell your probes to move to the bottom side of the gas where the core is, and then tell them to mine gas again. And then they will have a little bit of a deviated gas path where it's going to be like they have to run around the core just a tad. But now they don't have to run around the entire mineral patch because it's a complete wall.
Okay.
So that would be a way you could fix it to where it's like, instead of being at 100% efficiency, it would now be like 95% efficiency, which is still pretty decent. But with the way the probes are doing it now, this is more like 50% efficiency. Like they're going so far around.
Yeah, that hurts my ass. I mean, I know that it was kind of wrong, but I don't know. Like, okay, let's do that.
Yeah, so if that ever happens in the future, just know you can always move them to the other side and then they'll mine properly, more or less.
Cool.
When it comes to Terran as well, a lot of times what I like to do with openers, with Gateway, I think Stalker first is pretty mandatory because you get Reaper opened on a lot. But after the Stalker, I really like to go Sentry second, especially if my opponent's build looks like a standard opener.
Yeah, totally true. I don't know why I delayed so much because I see like a money.
Yeah. I'm gonna alter your
Yeah.
build. I'm gonna alter your build a little bit. This is what I think you should do.
Okay.
Chrono boost one time when your Nexus, on your Nexus when your first pylon finishes. So like your first pylon's done, you make a gateway, you chrono boost the probes. You can then start a gas once you can afford it while making probes, and then with your scouting probe, you can analyze: do I want to go Nexus before? Actually, don't ever do it. Just literally make it easy for yourself. Always go core before Nexus, because if you get Reaper attacked, it's gonna always make your life easier. So your build will be gateway, gas, one chrono boost on the Nexus. By the time the gateway finishes, you start a core, and then you make a natural at a Nexus at your natural. Once the core is down, your next chrono boost immediately goes into your gateway every time. When the core is done and you start a stalker. If you do that properly like that every time, your stalker will pop out right as the Reaper gets in your base. And then you won't have to deal with any probes having to run around. No probes will die. You can just shove the Reaper away with your stalker, or if the guy gets really crazy and runs around your base, maybe it'll die entirely because you already understand SimCity against Reapers, which is good. So that's best case scenario. But worst case scenario is you just don't kill it, but it doesn't kill any of your probes. From there, I don't mind that you built a robo. It's just stylistic. But yeah, we'll go into it further as we go here. But yeah, that should be your build. Your second chrono boost always goes gateway for the first stalker, and then make a sentry after that. And then your chrono boosts can be dedicated back to probes again after that, and you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I would recommend so far for like every ZVT
Sounds
or
great. Sounds
every
great to me.
PvT rather. Because yeah, this sucks for you. Like you're gonna kill the Reaper, or maybe not. It's covered in butter. It just slips through.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I mean, yeah, it's awful,
I was like, it's dead. Oh, just kidding. It's a Reaper. It doesn't ever die.
but yeah.
But when you're gonna go for a robo like this really fast, if you're gonna be greedy, I would highly recommend at this point in time in your build, what you should do is you should add in a second
Gateway.
yeah, a second gateway, and then don't make the observer as fast as you are, but instead make a robo bay as quick as you can. And the reason why I would recommend doing this is because if I'm going to tell you to make a sentry second, that's going to be your scout anyways. That's going to be what's going to scout with hallucinated Phoenix.
Okay.
And the whole point of your robo will be to get Colossus really fast. And then, like, you know, you can make an observer once you can afford it, once you have the robo thrown down, or the robo bay thrown down, that is. Then your next 75 gas, you can be like, all right, let's make an observer. And then from there, you know, you can make stalkers and a Colossus. And what this is going to do is your hallucinated Phoenix scout is going to go figure out what he's doing. Ideally what you want to look for is you want to see, has this guy, you know, taken a third base? Is he expanding? What is he doing that I need to pay attention to? And, you know, try to like kind of read a little bit as to what's going on. It's not going to be in his base like permanently, basically, like an observer would be. But the big thing you're going to look for is just, you know, is he doing something that an observer is going to be required for? Because if the answer is yes, and the only things that would show that would be a reactor on a factory or a tech lab on a starport, then yes, you need to pay more attention with like a defensive observer, and it's, you know, you need to really watch out for that. But if the answer is no, and you don't really need to worry about, like, there's no Widowmine drop happening and there's no Banshee harass happening, you're more than able to like make one observer no matter what, but just have it instead of being in your base, like kind of like ready to defend a cloak attack. You could have it in front of your base, like on oversight mode, like near like the front of your ramp, outside your base, and you could be like, all right, is he going to push me at some point? And it just gives you like a lot of comfortable room to where like if a fight's going to happen, you have like 5 seconds to prepare before it actually happens.
Yeah.
And then the sentry you make, it literally just keeps sending one by one every like minute or two. Like it's about like every 80 to 90 seconds. You send out a hallucinated Phoenix and you just go, what are you doing now? What are you doing now? What are you doing now? You know what I mean? Like you just want to keep tabs on him every once in a while. But the best thing you can do is if you With the build order I'm kind of telling you to do, if you scout the first time, okay, the first time it looks like he's going to be aggressive, immediately, you like maybe like chrono boost out a Colossus, and you should make like a battery in your in natural.
Natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna want to make batteries when you feel like he's gonna attack you, and if you keep periodically scouting with the hallucinated phoenix, you should have tabs on that. And what the tab should be is the very first time you send a hallucinated phoenix out to his base, he should have a natural that is like pretty decently saturated already. We're talking like 10 SCVs at least. The second time you send a hallucinated phoenix out, a third base should already be started. You should see a third, and if you don't see a third, either in his main that's being built and ready to go, or it's already at the third. If you don't see it at all, you need to make batteries right now because you're about to get attacked.
Yeah.
That should be what the main things you're looking for. And then also, obviously, you can also scout his tech. Like, is he going mech? Is he going bio? But yeah, the hallucinated phoenix timing will tell you a lot if you're going to get attacked or not. Because right now, for your build, with going for an observer first, you don't fully know if what he's done yet because your probe got kind of owned early with when we were trying to kill the SCV on the barracks. You're gonna scout him, but like this is still kind of scary because if this dude was actually going for like a 3 racks or like fast Hellions or something, I would be very scared that you could take a lot of damage right now. So the first probe is also crucial. You want to see how many gases he has, like we talked about earlier. Because it tells you, like, the double gas means you probably... That's actually something we need to talk about really fast. Because I kind of didn't really focus enough on it. If the first probe scouts double gas, make a battery at your natural, like, right away. If it does not scout double gas, you're fine. You don't need to make a battery. Then you can rely on your hallucinated phoenix scouting and stuff like that. And these are all just things you should look for in like the opener of the game. It'll tell you like the pacing of what should happen for the next like blind moment of the game, because you are going to be blind for that moment when you don't have a phoenix in his base yet.
I got a quick question.
Sure.
Should I try to leave the probe on the main? On his main base, like on patrol, trying to gather as much info, or should I try to take it out?
So you don't when you got stuck in his main because he built a depot to block you in, you had no choice. But if what your goal should be when you scout a Terran is you should immediately look up the ramp and go, or like first you should pass by his natural and just see, is this guy really greedy and is he taking a quick natural? If there's nothing there, you immediately go to the main, scout the ramp. If he has production there, it means you're most likely not being proxied, but you want to scout the timing of it. Like, is it really late, or is it like, is it almost done? It should almost be done if it's standard build. Once you identify his barracks timing, you should then go further into his base and just see if he's gone 1 or 2 gases or 0, because some Terrans also are crazy and they might take 0 gas. Like, let me give you an example, okay? This will hopefully make you understand more of what I mean here. Let's say you go into the Terran's base and you see a barracks that's like 80% of the way done when you get there, or like 75, and then you see 1 gas on his gas production, and then the barracks finishes. Your probe now is starting to leave his base, and as you're leaving his base, an SCV chases you down the ramp, but it doesn't chase you all the way. It turns to the right and it goes to where he's going to build a command center as natural. That's like one thing you would see, and that would be very standard 1 gas standard build. But now let's say you scout his base and you see, like, let's say you go up the ramp, you see a barracks that's like 10% of the way done. It's just started, and there's no gas in his base at all. I'd be like, all right, dude, you need to really pay attention now. Maybe scout for a third base. Like, scout for a hidden base at his third, maybe, or something like that. Or maybe you're getting proxied by some weird bullshit. Like, that's his third barracks, not his first barracks. You'd want to look for something that is mineral invested on the map somewhere else then. With that probe now. And then, that would be a way to react to something like that. And the last one would be like, if you see a barracks that's like, almost done, and kind of like the first one where it's like the barracks is like 75% of the way done. You scout in and you see 2 gases, and you're like, okay, well, this guy's got double gas already. That's really fucking like super committed to the gas. That's expensive for Terran to get that early. And suddenly, instead of a natural, you're kind of expecting a factory to go down immediately after the barracks is done. Because it's what would make sense. So those are the kinds of things you'd want to be looking for with your probe. You want to identify how many gases he has, and if he's expanding or not. That's crucial. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, more solid, yeah, knowledge.
And just know, I know, I'm going to pause it again just to say this. I know a lot of the stuff I'm going to say it all really fast probably. And it's going to be like, okay, I heard what he said, but now he's confusing me with this next thing he's saying, and holy shit, he just won't stop talking. It might happen.
No.
Well, if it does, though, it's totally fine, because I am going to upload this to YouTube. It's going to be a VOD, and you can watch it as many times as you want over. So
sure.
It'll help a lot. I'm just giving you all the deets here.
Sure.
I just don't want to overwhelm. But anyways, with all the scouting being said, going back to your build, just as a way to react to it, just know the only thing that should really change about your build, depending on how aggressive he is shield battery timings. That's about it. Your build otherwise should stay the same. And the build I would recommend you be doing is Gateway, Core, Nexus, into a Robo with a fast Robo Bay, and you make a Colossus right away. And then when you make the Robo Bay, you also make a second Gateway. And then you just make, like, you go Stalker, Sentry, and then just Stalker, all the way till you have about 10 Stalkers. And then you make Colossus until you have about 3 Colossus. And then you can switch into, like, you can kind of slow down on Colossus production there, and you can switch into, like, Zealots.
Okay.
Alright, I like the idea here, but I don't like 3 Forges. 3 Forges is way too committed.
Okay.
So here's how I would say this is gonna go. You're taking a third really fast. This is greedy. I like it though. The only way you're really going to be able to defend this is with some type of a cost-efficient unit, and a Stalker and a Zealot are not cost-efficient, but a Colossus is.
Yeah.
So you definitely need to get a Colossus out. Like, the second you can make one, you need to make one. It's a priority. Like, priority number 1 is getting a Colossus out. At least your very first one. After that, I think Double Forge is great because you'd want to be going for weapon upgrades and armor upgrades. You do not want to get shield upgrades this early against Terran, because shield upgrades aren't really going to do a whole lot for you, because the main unit you're going to ideally want to be fighting the Terran with is going to be a Zealot. Like, you're not going to want to take fights with Terran if you're going to play macro-oriented when you only have Stalker Colossus, because your army is going to be really small at that stage, and you only want to make like 10 Stalkers like I was saying a second ago. And the reason why you want to make those first is because that will help you deal with Widowmine drops, not because not only will it kill the medevacs, but it can also outrange Widowmines. It'll also help you deal with Banshees. It'll help you deal with Raven harass. It'll help you deal with Hellion harass better. Like, every type of harass, the Stalkers will be better at dealing with it than anything else would be early on. But later on, when you actually want to take fights, it's seriously going to be all Zealot frontline, and then your Stalker Colossus are going to be behind that. And if you look at a Zealot, if you click it really fast and you mouse over its shields, it has 0 base shield upgrades, as does every unit for Protoss. So this is a big deal, because if you now look at the armor, it has 1 base armor, which means you basically have a free armor upgrade already. And 2/3 of the Protoss's health, of the Zealot's health, is health anyways, which is affected by armor and not shields. So it just adds up better for the Zealot overall if you focus on 1 upgrade, because it won't fuck your army composition up too hard because it's not that expensive. And the 1 armor upgrade should 100% be armor, because you'll just have a higher value out of armor than you would out of shields, is what I'm trying to say. Like, if you're focusing too much on shield upgrades, it's more, not only is it more expensive than armor upgrades, but it's also less impactful, because you're spending your first upgrade just to match what you get by default with armor upgrades. And in this game, it's all flat values. So if a Marine does 6, and you have 1 armor, now the Marine's doing 5. So the lower you can make that number be, the better. And that's why you'd want to focus on having more units and having prioritized upgrades, which would be armor. Because I guess another way to say this is the logic I'm trying to go for here is if you invest into triple upgrades, it's going to severely reduce your army size because it's too expensive. And then you just have less units with unoptimal upgrades. Like, shields are great, but they're way later against Terran. Anyways, yeah, the AoE unit, though, like, your build order overall is not terrible. It's not bad at all. But the third forge is a bit excessive, and the lack of Colossus is kind of scary.
Yeah, I'm just surprised myself because I'm thinking I need a Colossus already.
Your nexus point is under assault.
Alright, and now you have...
I don't know why I'm not dealing with those aliens right now.
It's okay. They're honestly not doing that much. I'm looking at your base as well, though. Like you're keeping your spending pretty decently under control. But I'm gonna kind of give you an idea, though. This is gonna be a big part of your build, though, and it's something you should remember or write it down or just come back and watch it again. But it's about your chrono boost, and your chrono boost should be like this, okay? We already talked about how your first one will be probes, right after your first pylon's done. Your second one will be for the stalker, and then you go back to probes again. As soon as you make the robo bay and the robo facility and the robo bay, so essentially when you start making a colossus, dedicate one chrono boost to your colossus as soon as you can, and then go back to probes again. And then as soon as you make your forges, and I agree that you take your forges when you take your third. That's a good timing to take them. As soon as your forges are done, stop chronoing probes altogether and only chrono boost your forges now. And you want to go for 2 of them and just get weapon and armor. And this will give you a sweet 3-3 timing over Terran. And the 3-3 timing is when you honestly want to attack him. That's like the kill timing for you against almost every kind of Terran player. And lastly, the last thing about your build that I would say we need to look at here is when you're chronoing your probes, you're going to definitely have a bit of oversaturation going on, which is totally fine for Protoss because your third timing was fine this game, but you like any excess probes you have because you're going to be chrono boosting them a lot, those will all transfer to your third. So if you have like 26 probes in your natural, you just transfer 10 to your third and then just keep saturating your third from then on. But then as soon as your forges are done, as soon as you start upgrades on your forges and you chrono boost it, immediately start a Twilight Council. That should be like just the trigger in your mind that always says, okay, I need to start a Twilight Council right now. The second I start 1-1.
Okay.
And what that's going to do is your chrono boosted upgrades will finish a little bit after your council finishes. And it will give you access to go 2-2 and then 3-3. And then you can also get Blink in charge for your gateway units. And then lastly, the last thing about your build that we want to look at, which we'll probably harken back to a few of these points, but once your third starts getting saturated and you've already kind of had all the expenses where you've already researched the extended thermal lance for Colossus, you've already researched like your 1-1 upgrades off the forges, you've already made the Twilight Council, you have a lot of expenses that have already been used now, that's already gone into your build. At that point, you should start going up from 2 gateways. But you should have been on 2 gateways all the way up until this point. So now, once all these expenses are done, and your third base is like getting fully saturated now, you should just throw on like 6 more gates. Like all at once.
Okay.
And then, because what's going to happen then, is when your third base is fully saturated, you have the option now to go, do I want to launch an attack on this player? Do I want to do a little bit of an earlier timing? Because sometimes you might think it's a good idea. If the opponent's being like too greedy, you totally can. Or if they just look like they deserve to die, like maybe they threw an army away and you're like, I could counter and kill this guy. That's a valid time to attack him. But if you aren't going to attack him, at that point you should be taking a 4th base and continuing probe production. And your ideal probe production or probe count should be like 80. And you can mouse over it in top right too to always know what you currently are at. And right now you can see if you mouse over the pylon supply, the Protoss supply, you are at 45. So it's not bad yet. It's not like it's like a terrible. You're a little bit under right now. Honestly, I would say you should probably be around like 52 or like 54. But the only reason why you're not there is because you're not chrono boosting. But yeah, once you get your 4th base saturated as well, you would honestly want to add on another like 4 gates to take you up to now 12 gateways. And I would highly recommend making just 1 Stargate. And the reason why is because you don't always have to use it, but if you ever encounter a Terran player that's like super turtly, it's nice to have the option of going Tempest.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's kind of like where I would like to see the build going. But we'll watch what you're doing. Your 3rd is good timed, but again, your chronos are a little under. We'll see where it goes though. But I feel like that's where you should aim for your build to be though. Okay, so now.
Oh no. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Yeah, I remember when I did this. Oh my god.
Yeah. Honestly, I think you just made that 10 times worse by moving your probes. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, I know. As I was doing it, I was like, what the hell am I doing? And then I'm just like, oh my god, I just fucked myself so hard.
I'm gonna go back for just a second. I'm just gonna say right now, like,
I got plenty of places to go, and then I just fucked myself into the corner.
If if this ever happens to you, where you're like, oh god, the probes, they're exposed, the best thing you can do is don't even touch your probes at all. Like, like the probes are already pretty decently spread out while they're mining, and although you might lose like maybe 6 probes or something to this because he's gonna get a couple hits off before your stalkers catch back up. It's the counter argument would be you're not losing mining time, so it's easier to like replace as well. But yeah, if this ever happens to you in the future, just honestly don't move your probes. Just let it be.
Bad idea. This is like.
Let's put it in normal speed so we can really watch it.
What the fuck is that, man?
Oh, the corner of fire death.
Oh my god. So
so
awful.
Currently 30 probes have died.
Yo, wow.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, that really sets the pace for the game entirely as well. Like that's gonna screw you so hard for the whole game now.
Yeah.
But just keep in mind too, those Hellions would have been dealt with so easy if you had a Colossus. Like the Hellions would have been dead a long time ago had a Colossus been there. But yeah, I'm gonna pause real quick too and kind of explain a little bit about the hallucinated Phoenix idea as well we were talking about earlier. So really quickly, just make sure right now you're on the everyone's vision. If you look at the middle right, you can like make sure it's just on E, so you can see my pings. Do you see that?
Sure.
Okay. So your first hallucinated Phoenix should do a pathway like this against your opponent. Okay, it should be like this. Go down like to his natural and then go through his main like that. Because then you would get tabs on like, all right, how does he have a natural for sure, and how many probes or how many SCVs does he have? What kind of units are in front of his natural that I can see for his composition, stuff like that. Your second hallucinated Phoenix should instead go like this, down that way, and then you can go up through the main, like back around. It's kind of hard to see it because I have pings everywhere now, but you'd go through
I get it.
Yeah, you go through the third, and then the main, and then the natural. And the reason why you do this is because you want to see if he took the base already. You just want to know if the base is there. So you like it gives you a good read on how much economy your opponent's working with right now. And then a great thing to do as well would be I'm gonna let my pings kind of disappear here, and then I'll give you 3 more ones. Okay, so then a great thing to do as well would be once you have, we're gonna make the magic number 4. Okay, once you have 4 Colossus out of this robo, I want you to then make like 4 observers. And the reason why I want you to do that is because I want you to make your first 3 observers that you make are going to scout like this. One observer is going to go here, and it's going to go in oversight mode. One observer is going to go there, and it's going to go in oversight mode. And one observer is going to go there, and it's also going to go in oversight mode. And the reason why this is important is because it's going to give you this big net vision radius around his base, and it's going to show you every single time he moves out And if you can catch it, because it's going to be really easy to see when it moves out, because you're going to see this big, massive blob running through your sight.
Yeah.
But it also will give you a very good chance of also spotting a drop before it moves out. Before, like, as it's starting to move out of his base. And it will give you so much more comfort in the map to not be, like, questioning all the time, to be like, oh my god, am I going to get attacked? Like, is there a drop maybe on the map somewhere? Like, you don't have this, like, unsurety feeling. It's just more of, like, a guarantee for you. And another way to, like, to make this even better for yourself as well is your pylon placement. I like your first few pylon placements, but, like, right around now, once you, like, start getting to the point where all your pylons now that you start building are going to start becoming excess, put a pylon, like, right there. Put a pylon, like, right there. Put another pylon, like, down in that corner right there. Another pylon, like, up there in that corner. You just cover the corners of your base with pylons so that if a drop does come, you see it as it's in the air before it's already dropping shit in your base. And that'll help you out a lot as well.
Yeah, sounds amazing.
Because the whole idea for your build here is if you just have enough time and like to build up your army, you're just going to win the game. So taking every precaution you can to make sure you don't just die randomly is in your best interest. All right, I like that you're chrono boosting your probes again. Very good.
I mean, that was a huge loss.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I
yeah.
had to...
But you should always be thinking you should be doing that the whole time anyways. Up until the probes, or up until the forges start upgrading. Like had you been upgrading your or chronoing your probes like that the whole time earlier on, it might have looked even scarier because it might have been, instead of 30 probes dying, it might have been 40 probes that died when you pulled.
Yeah.
But you get the point though. Like if you have that many probes to work with, your supply is gonna ramp up so fast as well. All right, and now if you ever see your opponent, this is perfect as well. If you ever see your opponent take a third, and we're talking when you're doing the hallucinated phoenix stuff. If you ever spot a third base, and this game you spotted it with an observer, this right now should be your reaction. Should be take a fourth base right there, or right there, and you could mine out the little hallway of minerals. That's fine too. But just start a fourth base against this, because now if this guy's committing to a third, you now know that this game is now going to extend even further, because he's not like going for like this like 5 factory super all-in type of build or some weird crap like that. Like it has what's it called? He has more of a macro follow-up going on as well. So you have time to take a fourth now, and you can really abuse that, and you're good to go. So that should definitely be starting a fourth as soon as you spot a third base from him. If it was no third from him and it was like just 2 base and that's it, that's when excuse me, that would be when you would want to stay on 2 bases, and you'd just want to like power on that production the whole time and be like, I got to prepare to get all in, because that's probably what's going to happen. And then you'd be good. And then lastly, the other thing about the hallucinated phoenix thing that would be great is it'll get you in the habit of rotating your scout around his base, because right now you have a great scout in his natural, but you have no idea that he's going. Like you actually do have an idea. You actually have seen the fusion core from earlier, and you also saw double tech lab starports. But you don't see the BCs stacking up, even though it seems it does seem like that should be what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I should know. Yeah.
If I were to ask you right now, just I'm gonna put you on the spot here for a second. How would you?
Yeah, I mean,
before I tell you, how would you defend this if you knew? Okay, he's going BCs. What do I got to do?
good question. I mean, against battle cruisers, I guess I would say Void Race or Mass Stalker with Void Race.
Okay, so I would say Stalkers are all right for now.
Yeah,
if
they don't.
If you can keep like if he commits and he loses his army, you can still go Stalker, and you can win the game. The whole thing about Stalkers that would work is if you could keep this guy low economy and make sure he never like gets even close to maxing out. Then that'd be fine. The only thing I don't like about it though is that especially if you make Void Rays with it, is that you would have a lot less Stalkers now if you made Void Rays as well, because Void Rays are super expensive. Plus, the thing about Void Rays that sucks is if this dude wanted to Yamato cannon and teleport away, and your army is heavy on the Void Ray, there's no way you could deal with that. Like, there's nothing you could do to punish that. If he scans ahead and goes, oh look, there's like 5 Void Rays, and I'm gonna Yamato 5 of them and just teleport home, You will not kill a single BC if he does that, and then he'll just get away
Basically, yeah.
for free. The other thing is if, let's say you have maxed out Void Rays and Stalkers, and this guy's also, like, you have more Voids than he has BCs, so he can't necessarily abuse you the whole time by being like, Yamato, teleport, teleport. Let's say he actually goes for a big fight. You're also really susceptible to Widow Mines, and he's also making Widow Mines. So if you fly in a bunch of Void Rays and they're stacked up and they start going overcharge mode to kill the BCs, and he burrows like 10 Widow Mines next to the Void Rays, all your Void Rays just die.
Yep.
So it's not in the best interest for you to go for Voids here. I would say the best thing you could do against this right now would be go for like heavier. If you knew he was going to go BCs, it would be like go for kind of like a heavy Stalker count for now, and maybe add in like 2 batteries to each one of your mineral lines. Because if he teleports to any one of your bases, you can like get blink really fast. You can blink towards the BCs, and those shield batteries will heal through the BC shots really well for a while until they're out of energy. But Stalkers can kill BCs pretty fast as well, because you can see that on the Stalker's damage tab it has 20 to armored, which is huge. A BC only has 550, so you get like 15, 20 Stalkers going. You're going to be like 2 to 3 shotting BCs, which is going to be great for you. And then you can go into like Tempest. Tempest are amazing. The main reason I would say Tempest are always your go-to unit for a Stargate, and the main reason why is because most of the time when you play against someone, you're always going to benefit the most from something that can siege them. And a Void Ray cannot siege, and a Stalker cannot siege.
Exactly, yeah.
But a Tempest can, and it can siege very well because it has a ridiculous range. That's also why I told you to go Colossus too, because a Colossus is also a unit that not only has good AoE early on in the game, but it can also siege. It's got enough range to siege most things other than like a siege tank or something like that. But yeah, Tempest would be great here. Like mass Stalkers into Tempest would be amazing if you knew he was going BC heavy. And then this would be perfect too if you were like, oh look, there's a third base going down. Let's say you spot it with a hallucinated Phoenix. Now you have more of an idea what's going on. That's even more reason to take a 4th base. And who knows, maybe you even do something like, for instance, you let's say you walk across the map with your Stalkers. Let's say you have Blink, and you blink across that wall. You deny the 3rd, and you immediately recall. There's a lot of things you could do without really investing into like a full-on attack. But that doesn't have to come now. Like, you don't have to do shit like that early on. That's just ideas for later, when you are more comfortable. I like your shield battery. I don't like that you pulled probes again, though. I think that's another situation right there where just let it be.
I was scared as well, yeah.
Like, they're gonna burn them.
Okay, I'm gonna embarrass myself again. Oh god.
All right, we're gonna speed this up a little bit now. We've kind of focused really heavily on the early part, but I do think if you continue to go Colossus and you also start going into Archons or something, I feel like you're making a mistake. Because it's just not as good of a composition against someone who's going to go mass BCs.
Yeah, the problem is that I just played like a standard. I don't really knew that he was going Battle Cruisers.
Yeah, that's why I really think that this Sentry idea will help you out so much, because it forces you, because you're gonna you're gonna
react.
This is how you would do it again. If you're scouting it, this is exactly what you do. You'd click the Sentry and you'd hit CX, or you just click Hallucinate Phoenix, but CX is the hotkeys. And then you would click the Phoenix and go, move there, hold shift, move there, hold shift, move there. And suddenly you're going to see everything. And then now you're going to know, oh, look at all those BCs he's grouping up. Okay. And, and then you could be like, okay, well, now I got BCs. What would be a great idea to go for against that? And then, every single time as well, just know that every single time you make a Hallucinated Phoenix with the Sentry, you should extend it one base further out. So the first time, like that, you go natural then to the main. Second time, you can go like that, from 3rd to the main to the natural.
Up.
And then the next time you do it, you could maybe add in this base and then extend it further, like the 4th base. Next time you do it, you can do this base as well, then go further. I know it looks like a mess, but you just
no.
You always extend it one further base out, because then things like this over here won't happen to you. where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, he's just taking random bases. And this also is something that will be countered really well by that 3 observer thing we talked about. Because now you would actually see, oh, look, with my oversight observers, we see SCVs moving out to go build shit somewhere else. And if you get a really quick blink upgrade and your opponent's super passive like this, there is nothing wrong with testing the waters and sending out like 10 stalkers to try and kill a random base if he makes one. And if you get it, awesome, and then just go immediately back home. But if he defends it and you're like, this looks like a shitty fight, I don't want to be here, you can blink home. Like, you can just blink your stalkers and run away. And then he'll never be able to catch you. As long as you don't blink into his army, obviously. Like, because sometimes terrain, you got to be careful about that. I like that you took a fourth, though. You're doing the right stuff overall. I think it could be timed and paced a bit faster, but you are at least you're doing it though. That's good. You're on the right track. And here comes the voids. Oh no! Oh no!
Yeah. I learned that from bad experience. Yeah, I mean, this game put me like, no, it doesn't work. Void race against battle cruisers. And
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you what was the best counter, and then I was like, okay, Tempest it is then.
So the best thing, like best case scenario for you of all things, would be if you have an idea where his Tempest are. Maybe you see it with an observer or something like that, and you have, let's say, like 3 Stargates making Tempest. Just make one Oracle, just one, and like you can literally have it like you can tell the Oracle to auto follow a Tempest. It doesn't really matter what you do with it. Just make sure it's around. What if, like, let's just say you move your army right there, okay, and you're getting ready to attack. And you have an observer spotting his army right now, but he's gonna scan it and kill it in a second, or something. He's got a Raven and it's gonna kill it. Doesn't really matter. Let's just say the observer becomes unreliable, but at the very least, it gave you tabs on where he was. If you get one revelation, one revelation on his army, your Tempest go to 15 range, which is the biggest range of anything in the entire game, by quite a bit. If you look at a battlecruiser, its range is 6. You have almost triple the range of a battlecruiser's attack with a Tempest. And a Tempest hits a battlecruiser for like 50. So if you have like 8 Tempest or like 10 Tempest, you're going to be like 2-shotting BCs.
Wow.
And you will see them like a full screen length away. Like you'll be able to shoot them literally. If you like look at the base of Terran right now and you move your screen to where like the BCs are on the bottom of your screen where you can still barely see them. A Tempest could be on the top of the screen shooting it, like easily. It can shoot so far, if you have vision. And that would also be a great way for you to force a fight. Because if he doesn't take a fight, he's going to slowly bleed out.
Then I guess I should have my Tempest on one button, right? Like on.
I would recommend that, yeah.
Yeah. I mean that makes sense to me. Otherwise, it's sloppy.
All right, so I'm gonna pause it again here one time, and I'm gonna say every single time when you attack someone, get in the habit of doing this every single time. You should literally tell yourself you're making like just always feel like you're making a big mistake if you don't do this. If we back up to like right here, when you're mid-map and you're getting ready to move out, I would love it if you had one zealot on both sides of the map. One zealot just scouts literally that base, that base, that base, and the other zealot scouts that base, that base, that base, that base.
Yeah, that's smart.
You can just shift A move it and take him out of your control group and just let him be. And if you take a second to do that and you're like, oh look, there's a base that I found with my zealot. Not only will the zealot be annoying for a second and start killing SCVs, but it'll tell you, okay, this seems like it's actually a more opportune place to attack than just charging right into the heart of Terran.
Yeah, totally agree.
Because a big thing that I think a lot of players neglect is economy control. If you can just control your opponent's economy, you don't even necessarily need to kill his army and you're still winning the game. Like at that point in time. Because he's just gonna, you're gonna develop a bank and he won't if you can just control his future money. He just went for like the base trade teleport all in.
Yeah. And at that moment, I was fucked.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, okay, I don't have anything against his battle cruisers, and He's gonna rise the buildings. Won't catch him. He has the time.
Yeah. Can't hit me, I'm floating!
Yeah, exactly. Because I had three portraits and I tried them.
Yeah, this position view is the worst just because your army comp is definitely not suited to deal with battlecruiser.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the game is obviously over, but this game kind of came down to just like lack of knowledge of what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
And I really, really, really think that if you add in that sentry to your build and you start getting good at like periodically doing the scout maneuvers we talked about, this shit won't happen to you, because you're gonna be like, oh, okay, I'm going through his base again, and I'm just seeing so much now. Like, having observer is nice because it sees cloak things, but it and it's also invisible, so it has the potential to be there for a long time. But the way it was used this game was, you know, you put it in there in his base, which is great, but then you kind of chilled with it. Like, that observer has literally been on oversight mode and is natural like that for the entire game. And it just never really saw anything else. It never really kept tabs on what was going on. And I think the thing that makes it complicated is you don't know all the time. You don't have like this timer telling you, so you need to scout now, dude. You need to scout now. You need to scout now. You're just like, should I? I don't know. I mean, I guess I could. But the thing about the sentry is if you can time it to where like you're keeping up with it pretty decently, because the hallucinated phoenix costs 75 energy, and let's just say you keep scouting before the sentry hits 100. For like, this happens like 4 times in a row. Okay. That is a great scout timing for you. Every single time you're above 75 and between 75 to 100, if you manage to tell a sentry to make a phoenix and go in and you do the patterns we talked about, this is amazing scout timings for you. So it's already built into it. It's just like, when it's ready to do it, if you do it, you're doing great, because that's going to tell you so much shit right there. That's like, it's so like you don't have to worry about the timing. You just have to worry about the sentry's energy, basically, and that tells you when to do it. If that makes sense. It just makes it easier to comprehend at first, to know what's going on. And then you don't have to do it all game. You just got to do it seriously like 5 times, and then you're done. And then at that point, you should very realistically know what's happening.
Yeah, have an idea of what's the game moving.
Yeah, because it'll tell you so much every time you get another scout and another one in there. And yeah. And then you'll have the observer thing we talked about around his base too, which will give you even more information as well. And yeah, dude. The one thing I'll say about this build though that I want to make sure you don't confuse yourself on is, or feel confused about on, is if you ever scout, I did tell you to go for like a Colossus right away at your robo. Don't bother building an observer, but then you could build the observers after you make like 4 Colossus.
Yes.
That does apply, except if your opponent goes for 2 gases first. Then I want you to make just 1 observer defensively first, and then go Colossus.
Okay.
And that's it. That's the only difference. Because if he goes for double gas early, there's a very high chance you're going to need detection. Because he's probably going to do a timing to you that it revolves around something that will be worker harassment that is stealthy, like a Banshee or a Riddle Mine.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't know. I think that's... any questions about this one?
From me or from the stream?
For you.
Well, I'd say, I don't know, I guess I got a lot of information to process, so
Yeah.
right now I don't think, no, I think I just need to work on the things that you told me,
Sure.
honestly.
Okay. And then really quickly, just to, I know you might not know this, and if you don't, I'll tell you this, but really quickly, I want you to just kind of tell me a compositional game plan. Like, what I want you to do is I want you to tell me, like, what unit you're going to make, how many of them you're going to make for the build order we just talked about. And this is assuming the Terran's playing super standard, okay? We're not talking about battlecruisers anymore. We're just talking about standard every game ZVT. And, like, assuming you get to play standard.
Sure.
Just do your best to try and, like, give me a composition here, and then I'll alter it if you don't tell me what I think.
I hope I get it right, though. When I'm playing, I'm just usually freaking out and don't follow, but I'd say 6 Colossus, you said 10 stalkers. Then I would probably have 2 to 3 immortals just to have, and then plenty of zealots. Usually have 4 to 5 high templars with storms, of course, and 1 sentry or 2 just to have the bubbles, the shield. And I would probably add a couple of void rays if have some Vikings against my Colossus.
Okay, this is why I want you to tell me this, because I think you're making it way too complicated.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think what you should do
Like,
is
A
literally
bit of that thing.
just do this. If you're unless your opponent's going like mass battlecruiser, then you can go mass stalker into like Tempest, like for this game particularly. But in a standard game, just do this and your life will be so easy, because what I want you to do is I want you to focus on your macro, not on such a diverse composition.
Yeah.
And this is what you got to do. Stalker first, Sentry second, and then make Stalkers to 10, like you said. Make Colossus to 4. You said 6, but just make like 4 for starters. Do not make any Immortals. And then you're good. And that's it. And then you can periodically add more Colossus if you feel like you need to. But try not to go crazy on Colossus, because too many Colossus is not necessarily a great thing. Like 4 is super good. Like I'd say if you want to go to 6 later on, like when you're like 170 supply or something, adding on a couple more then is fine. But an initial 4 is solid, and you're good. And then once you have 10 Stalkers, 4 Colossus, and 1 Sentry, now what I want you to do from there is just literally make mass Zealots. Just fucking mass Zealots.
Okay.
And then you're going to make Observers too, for like the Observer thing we talked about. And then you're going to be focusing really heavily on chrono boosting your upgrades and looking at your opponent's base counts. Really, really, really try to focus on not allowing your opponent to take hidden bases on you. Like, don't let him expand on the side of the map and shit without you knowing about it, if you can. Like, always have it. Like, try to have a zealot, like we talked about, running around, or the hallucinated Phoenix Scout, figuring out if there's bases over there, and stuff like that. And then, if the game does not end with you breaking him at this point with Stalker, Zealot, Colossus, and that's it. Like, you're really not even going to include the Sentry into that composition, because the Sentry is not really designed for combat here. It's only for Scout. So you don't have to worry about the bubble. Like it's honestly a great spell, but it's something that's advanced, and it's just a waste of your time to worry about right now, because it requires a lot more micro than it seems. What am I trying to say? If you don't break him with the Zealot, Stalker, Colossus comp, you should have added in a Stargate and then added in a Fleet Beacon to have the ability to go into Tempest as well. Just adding in Tempest. And then you're fucking super solid. Like, that composition will break pretty much anything. Like, especially in the Plat to Diamond. Like, you will crush if you just macro this well. And then if you, for whatever reason, are like, okay, I'm doing like okay in these fights, but this guy has like 100% Marines, like nothing but Marines, and like Vikings. He's got like mass Marine Viking and a couple medevacs. This is ridiculous, because he just has like 20 Vikings kill my Colossus, and then he just has so many Marines that kill my my gateway units. Although that could happen. Apologize for coughing too.
That's all right.
At that point, I would not mind if you tech into Templars late game then for that. I do think you should make Templars faster as you get better at doing this. But I honestly think you will beat all of your opponents if you just macro it well and you do the simple composition of Stalker, Zealot, Colossus, Tempest. That's it.
Okay.
No Templar, no Immortal, no Void Ray, no Bubble Boys.
Bubble Boys.
Because all these things added on like that make your composition way more technical, and it reinforces the feeling of you feeling like overwhelmed, where you're like, oh god, like Hellions are attacking my base and I gotta pull my probes, I'm freaking out. Like, all these things where you make the game way too complicated, it reinforces you to feel like that, because you're like, this game, I've got so much shit to do, I feel so overwhelmed right now, I gotta keep up with this, it's not working as well as I want it to. Because the thing about a diverse composition that makes it's misleading is it seems good on paper, because you're like, I got so many tools at my disposal. Instead of just a fucking hammer, I have a hammer, I have a wrench, I have a little screwdriver. I got all these different tools I could use. But it's so hard to balance it and use them all correctly at the same time. and it makes you actually use them all inefficiently if you don't balance it right. And the thing that like goes hand in hand with balance is properly building it all. Like what I'm trying to say is the more time you put onto trying to balance a diverse composition, that's the less time you're putting into just physically having a raw beefy army, like just producing it, because you're just so caught up in the fact where you got to control everything all the time and do that, when instead what you should be doing is, like, for instance, when a fight happens, you don't just like try to micro 10 different things at once. A fight happens, the fight might not even be over yet, and you're just like 16 gateways worth of units, just remake it right now. 3 Tempest, right now, and your supply goes from like 200 down to 140, right back up to like 190. And then you're still fighting. It's not even like the fight's over. You're just macroing during the fight, and you're just like focusing on that raw brute force. I don't really need to micro this that much kind of an army. The only thing you got to micro in that kind of an army is if your opponent does not die, and you're like, all right, we need Tempest because this dude's not dying. Like you said, you can put Tempest in their own control group, and you can start picking at him and, like, you know, breaking him down little by little and creating an opening for you to like really push into. Then that'll take a little bit more of your time, but that's also more patient. And you shouldn't really be losing your army when you're playing like that anyways, because you're just poking him. You're not really like full on attacking him yet. But when you're full on attacking him, honestly, with that composition, just A-move it and just make more behind it and make sure your bases are looking good. And once you can do that, once you get to a point where you can balance the aspect of keeping your supply like cranked out of control, like it's maxed out during fights, then you can start adding on diverse composition pieces to that, while you can still maintain maxing out, because now you can handle it properly. It just takes like practice and like repetition to get to that point. But if you just have the right dynamic in your mindset, like the right way to execute it, you'll get there way faster.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I got 2 questions, and one for sure. It's when you said, I feel like you said this simple composition. I feel like I have to attack around, I don't know, like minute 12 or something.
Sure.
Okay, because if I go with numbers, I think I go a little bit later, but let's say 14 or something, even though I should try to make it sooner. But whenever I have the high Templars, and especially against the Terran, it feels so comfortable when, safe, it's the word, yeah, for me. Like, yeah, through a couple of storms and wipe out their Marines.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes more sense to me, like making a simpler one and attacking sooner rather than later with a more technical composition.
Yeah, because the big thing is when you go for a storm, you're banking on having to control your army well, or you're going to lose the fight. Because if you control poorly and your Templars get picked off, you're going to just get overwhelmed and die. But the thing about what this style does, if you prioritize your chrono boost correctly, like we talked about, and you're hitting like a timing where the Terran is like 1-1, maybe 2-1, and you're 3-3, and your Zealots are like, we're just fucking basically Ultralisks at this point because we have so much armor, and they just won't fucking die. And then your Colossus are just like A-moving as well, going Marines die, Marines die. Like, you're just gonna be like, wow, my army doesn't die. Like, it just like runs them over.
Yeah, that sounds.
And it doesn't require you to be like hitting that perfect timing storm where it's like, if I miss it 1 second too late, my Templar could die. But if I do it too early, I could waste my energy. But if I do it just right, I'll fuck him up. That factor becomes irrelevant because you're not gonna worry about that anymore. Now it's just like from the Terran's perspective, it's gonna be like waves of Zealots followed by laser beams, and then suddenly waves of Zealots again. And now he's like, my army's cut in half from what it was a second ago, and there's a full fucking wave of Zealots attacking me again, and I'm just gonna die now. And the opportune places to attack with this is always newest expansions. Which is why I really stress the fact of trying to figure out how many bases he's on. Because if you always go for the center of his base and he's like really turtled there, or he has really exposed bases on the outside that you're not paying attention to, you're going to get worse trades, and it might not seem as overwhelming then. Because the big thing to keep in mind is when you attack the heart of someone's base rather than the exposed expansions, is SimCity is a factor if you attack the heart of their base. Like they have depots there, they have barracks, they have production. They can tuck their units into things, which makes your your army less valuable. As opposed to, like, you know, if you look at it like his base that's still alive right now in this game, the middle right base, it's like super exposed. You have so much surface area to use here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, can go with a couple of zealots and yeah, just fuck him up.
Yeah, that's right. And then yeah, man, like if you the other thing too is like the perfect way this goes. I'm just gonna give you an example where it's like the Terran doesn't die, okay? But it's still the mindset for you still wins if you play like this. Let's say the Terran's on 3 bases, and the 3 bases he has are really hard to break. You cannot do it. But every time he takes a 4th base, that's when you launch your attack, and you just break his 4th every time because he doesn't have SimCity there. This happens again and again and again and again, up until the point when now you're at like 22 minutes into the game. And now you're at the stage now where you've added in the Tempest part to your army, and now you have like 8 Tempest. And you're just slowly picking at his bases, and you just continuously maintain not letting him take a 4th, but you're slowly deleting his resources like 100 at a time by killing a depot or killing a marine or killing a medevac or something like that. Something small every time, but it's constantly picking at him over and over and over. And you're on like 5 bases and he's on 3. You are going to overall win that game at that point because he's slowly decaying himself away.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have future economy to replace what you keep picking apart. And then you, as the guy with 5 bases, even if you force the Terran to take a big fat fight, and you might even, let's say you even lose it a little bit more than you should have, where like the Terran loses 70 supply, but you lose 100. If you've prevented him from taking a 3rd this long, you'll easily remax, and he'll be like, you know, on the remax for you, even though he lost less supply than you did, you'll still have more than he does because you just have more money to work with. And you just go back to doing it again. Deny his 4th base, slowly pick at pieces of his army, and he will die over time to this kind of a style. Guaranteed.
Yeah, that sounds great. Not like really mean, but lethal.
Yeah, it's just control. You have so much control of the game if you play like that. Alright. Was that the only one you had, or did you have another one?
I got another. Yeah, I got honestly, I struggled with the early pushes. If I may show you one.
Sure, let's do it. Let's do a shorter one. Yeah, let's do it. That's perfect because we're
6 minutes.
Let's do it, dude. That sounds perfect. We'll do it for like another 10-15 minutes, and we'll probably call it good. Go over some all-in stuff.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for buying a lesson. I appreciate that.
No, man, my pleasure. I mean, I'm learning so much, and for sure a lot of people as well.
Well, I don't coach Protoss all the time, but so just keep this in mind. If you get to the point where you're a badass, okay, you're like approaching GM and stuff, I'd probably say you don't want my coaching anymore for Protoss. But when it comes to like Platinum Protoss and Diamond Protoss, I can totally coach you still, because it really just comes down to game sense at that point.
Yeah.
And things like that. All right, so we got a Protoss versus Zerg. Against Zerg, I would recommend probably just scouting with your probe right after the pylon, because you'll see if it's going to be an early pool really fast or not. It helps a lot knowing that, and that's what you're actually up against. So knowing that early will help you out a ton.
I mean, it's good for me that you tell me what I should look for and what everything means, because I see this stuff and I'm like, okay, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is.
Right now, with your probe scouting it right after the first pylon, this is what you should see. You should see a drone coming down the ramp right now.
Yeah.
Either if it's a 16 hatch, it would be coming down the ramp right now, and it would be like maybe near the gas right now. Or if he sends it really early, maybe it would already be sitting there. Or you should see a drone coming down the ramp as you touch the ramp, if it's a standard build. If it's a macro, if it's a macro build. But if there's no drone at all by the time you get up the ramp entirely, you need to look at his base further, and you need to see how many larvae does this guy have? That's larva. Like, you want to compare larva to eggs, because if there's larva, he's saving that shit. If there's eggs, he's obviously making something, and it's most likely drones if there's no pool there. So that's something huge to look at. So we see no natural, because he's going for a pool, obviously, but no natural, and you've confirmed it. But now you really want to get into his base quickly with your probe, which you are now. We don't see a drone coming down at all. We see... Okay, this is a bit cheeky. I would honestly only recommend doing this.
I do all the time.
I would,
I'm like, okay, I'm there.
yeah, fuck your gas.
Yeah, fuck your gas. Yeah, I mean, just...
I would say this is good if you're gonna cannon rush him, but if you're not gonna cannon rush him, probably a waste of your money.
Okay. No, I never kind of rush. I mean, I did some, but I suck at that and don't even try.
But yeah. Well, hopefully you scout further into his base, and we'll see what's going on here.
I did.
Okay,
I wanted to know where was the pool. I think.
You see that though? Look at his hatchery right now, and you see how there's 2 larvae just sitting there. Like, but even before you saw that pool, you could assume there's a pool. Just because of the larva, and if there is no pool, there's only one other option here for Zerg. If you see larvae clumped up in a hatchery like this, really early like that, it makes no sense. And if there is a pool, it would make sense that there's a pool almost done that he's going to make Zerglings with. But if there somehow was no pool here, you're getting proxy hatched. That's the only other option. There is a proxy hatch somewhere on the map, because there is no fucking reason ever to save your larva like this.
Yeah.
Otherwise. So that is something you should always look at. Look at the larva. And when your probe first gets here, because... This Zerg right now is sitting on 15 drones. You're on 18 probes right now. And he's got larva just chilling. And the only reason, again, why the fuck would he ruin his own economy like that so hard? It's because he's doing something cheeky, basically.
Yeah, saving for aggression.
Now he's making a drone. This guy's crazy. Yeah, I think he messed that up, because he definitely shouldn't have made that drone. So now he's making another drone. I don't understand. Maybe he's paranoid about cannon rush.
No idea.
Okay, anyways, we'll look at your build. We'll go back to your build. So you should be expecting the potential of lings to be coming to your base. You just saw 2 lings that is natural. I don't mind that you patrolled as natural like that. Because it actually does give you tabs on how many lings are going to cross by your probe. And you saw 2, which in my opinion would feel super weird. Because it should be 6. But what you should do now, as a response to all of this, if you ever see a Zerg take an early pool like that, chrono booster for a zealot. Always. Not chrono boosting your zealot that's greedy as hell.
Yeah.
The next thing you should do is, well, actually the first thing you should do is actually build your pylon 1 pixel further back. Because this is fucking your wall up really bad.
Yeah, that's a mess. Seriously messy. I mean, like, he has plenty of room to get in.
But the one way you could fix this wall to a point would be if you just built another pylon
next to the other one, right?
Yeah. Like you just kind of like close it off a little bit. Like you could build a pylon right below the first pylon, and that would close it to where the only opening would be between your core and the forge.
I think I go for the Nexus.
Yeah, that's greedy, dude.
I'm like, he has a natural. I gotta do my.
You're like, what would ViBE do? The greediest thing possible. That's what I'm fucking doing. Nexus.
Yeah, I mean.
What?
I go greedy as fuck. Yeah.
Yeah, pool first. You should definitely take it into precaution that you're about to get hit by a lot of lings, most likely. But yeah, like putting a pylon below the first one would be a way to somewhat fix this wall. Even it would make it like the hallway of death, more or less. But this wall is definitely kind of fucked up.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, now there's a ling in your base. Zealot will come out though, and you should be okay because this guy's actually he was making drones.
Oh.
Now, with what's happened here, I would say the forge is a little excessive. I don't think you necessarily need it because I imagine you're going to make defensive cannons now. That would be my guess. The only
I think I put it there for
just a wall.
to make the wall. Yeah,
Okay,
like it's another.
if you were gonna do that, I would say you might as well just make a gateway.
Okay,
It would be
yeah.
more useful.
Next one, I'll do that.
Yeah. A great thing to do though at this point would be like you definitely need to get your wall covered. You got it kind of covered now. Yeah, it's pretty decent now. In this situation though, you know for a fact your opponent is on a one base economy, and you should feel like you're winning the game if it's one base versus one base. A great way to go about the follow-up of this would be you have choices of either going for, obviously your 3 tech choices of going Robo, Council, or Stargate. And the way you would play either any one of them, and you're going for a Robo, so we'll talk about Robo. A great way to go for a Robo would be you could go for a Robo timing now, because your opponent opened up with what should have been aggressive and should have done a lot of damage. And I will say, the way this game has gone, this has not done enough damage to justify what he did. Like, he went for... he delayed his own economy really hard. And you can see in the probe count right now, you're 24 to 20. And you have the ability to chrono boost a lot. You're not chrono boosting as well, which is not super great. But if you were chrono boosting probes, you'd be even higher. You'd probably be at like 26 right now, or 27. But this guy his economy is not intimidating to you at all. It should not feel that way in one bit. So Robo could be, like I said before, you could go for like Sentry Immortal, and you could just shove him and hit him before he's ready for it. Another way you could do it would be you could get a Warp Prism, and you could just go for Harass and be really annoying.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably not recommend the Warp Prism style, though. Only because...
spam Carlisms.
Well, the main reason why I wouldn't recommend it is because it's distracting as fuck for you, just like it is for him.
Yeah. At my level right now,
It's...
if I do that and my economy blows up.
Yeah, because like a lot of times when you focus too much on your macro while you're trying to Warp Prism Harass, you're like, oh, I lost the Prism. Or the opposite, you're like, I'm really doing a lot of damage to this guy. I've killed like 5 drones now. And I'm really microing like a boss, and you're like at 2,000 minerals. And you're like, oh shit. Well, I'm really doing one job pretty well, but I'm neglecting the other.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I would say Warp Prism is probably out of the ballpark here until you're a little bit, more comfortable with all of it. So it leaves basically, if we're gonna go Robo, your only real option, I would say honestly, is a timing. And you have 2 options here for a timing. You can go for a Immortal based timing, or you can go for a Colossus based timing. Both are viable. And the best way to micro either one of these timings would be if your plan was this now. From this point on, you're going to make sentries. Only sentries, and you're going to make up to like 6 of them. And the reason why is because you want to have enough sentries to be able to control the environment when you fight him at least a little bit. If you don't make sentries, it makes this build way worse. Because again, the only reason why you'd want to go Robo is for a timing. I'm trying to think actually. You also could go for a Robo if you went for a Prism, but instead of trying to like harass him with the Prism and like fly around and poke drones and stuff, you could actually just do like a Zealot all in too. I don't know if you ever do those, but that also would be viable here. But anyways, we'll focus more on the Colossus or Immortal Sentry type thing. If you made like 6 sentries right now, the reason why that would be good is because it not only synergizes well with your follow-up timing eventually that you're going to do, but it also keeps you really safe early game from any potential all-in he can follow up with on you. Because if this guy shows up at your base with Roaches, Banes, Zerglings, you could literally force field the shit out of this ramp over and over, and you have a lot of control. I would say, just to keep it really simple, if you're going to go Robo, just do Immortals. And for this kind of a push, if your opponent fails an all-in, you can, or like fails like an aggressive opener, you can just do a follow-up Immortal timing if you're going to go Robo. And the timing you'd want to do, it would be like, with your Chrono Boost, it would be like this, okay? You'd go Chrono and Probes the whole time, except for your first Chrono on your Gateway, because he opened up with a pool first, for that first Zealot to be out early enough to not like let Lings flood into your base. So you Chrono Boost your Zealot first, and then you only Chrono Probes until your Robo's done. And then when your Robo's done, then you only Chrono the Robo, and you make 3 Immortals. Just 3. And then during this time, you're going to be fully saturating your main and your natural. And once you have, once you're at a point where your money starts kind of ramping up a little bit, where you're like, all right, I'm generating more than I can spend, just keep adding on more gates, and add on gates until you have about 6 of them in total, or 6 or 7. Both are fine. I would say just go to 7, because you know it helps out if you have an extra gate. If you miss the macro at that perfect time where you're like you have a little bit of downtime where you're not actually building them, you're not using them. So it helps you recover faster to like spend your money. So 7 gates, okay? 7 gates while you're building 3 immortals.
Okay.
And off your first gate, you're just making sentries. After the zealot. Now, when you move out of your when you're going to move out of your base is going to be like roughly when you have 6 sentries, 3 immortals, and you have then made your final thing out of the robo, which is your warp prism. And the reason why you make the warp prism is because you want to bring it with your push to warp in aggressively. So you're then going to, you know, start moving out across the map, and you're going to wall your base off. Literally entirely, like build a pylon, build a gate, whatever. Just wall it off. And then now you're going to literally take your, whatever it's called, your prism, and you're just going to periodically phase it as you go across the map and chill with your units at it whenever a gateway cooldown's ready, and you're going to warp in rounds of units. And you're eventually going to get to his base, and then you'll just leave the prism like there. Or something, like just outside of his creep, or outside of his natural, where the queens aren't just going to pop it. And you're just going to keep making units nonstop, and you're just going to keep attacking him. And you just want to look for that juicy force field. And the way you can force a juicy force field is by, you can bait your opponent into something. For instance, if your opponent is not, if your opponent's not like down in his natural right now, let's say he's like way out of position, you could very realistically run into his base and like lock him out of his base. You can, like, if you can control the ramps, that is the best way to use sentries. Like, so you can have 2 force fields controlling the ramp below his natural, and one force field controls the ramp above his natural, between the main. Controlling the ramps is huge because it's minimal energy input or an investment into maximum control of where the Zerg can go. And the way you can kind of figure this out too is when your army is also getting ready to push into his base. Like, let's say when your army is like right here, okay? Like you're really close to his base. You do the exact same thing we talked about when you're playing against Terran, where you make 1 hallucinated phoenix and you scout ahead of where you're going. And you want to know where are his units. So you're not like running in blind, basically. If you see his army is in position to defend, the best way to fight him, like if his army is like in front of his natural, like ready to hold that area, the best way to fight him is to poke up forward and start attacking him. And then as soon as he engages you and starts coming forward, you back up a little bit and you let him come towards you, and you just lock in pieces of his army, like a lock in a clump of it if you can. Especially if you're on the ramp and he's like near the hatchery, and you back up to where now he's on the ramp and you lock him on top of the ramp, like you put the force fields on the top of the ramp to where now his army cannot go back into his base. You suddenly just took a great fight. And all you got to do is take that kind of a fight one time and you win. And taking a fight like that in this particular kind of a game where the Zerg's economy is not strong is going to be really easy, because his army is going to be really small compared to what it should be, because he opened up with a pool first. So it would, you know, makes a lot of sense to be able to attack like that. All right, I'm going to play it from here. I'm going to see how you kind of go about it.
Yeah, you'll see.
You'll see.
It's gonna be awful.
I like your pylon though. I do really think you should do this all the time, and that's kind of what I was telling you to do as well the other game. When I was like, you know, get the pylons placed for the drops and stuff. Super good pylon placement, and if you put one more top right as well, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, because of Nidus, I usually do that because I've been fucked up.
Yeah.
Many times.
That's how it goes. Here comes his all in. Now, excuse me, sorry.
That's okay.
Imagine right now if you had 3 sentries and an immortal instead of 2 sentries, or sorry, you have 2 stalkers, a sentry, and an observer. So the observer is not really necessary here, because if you're going to go robo, you really should go for a timing. It should either be a early timing with immortals, or it could be a delayed timing with Colossus, but you should prioritize whatever unit you're going to make first and then make the observer later. And if you're going to go for sentry, the sentry is your scout. It's the same thing as the other thing we talked about. Hallucinated Phoenix is like amazing here. But if this guy showed up at your base right now with Ling, Roach, Ravager, all you have to do, as soon as you see he's pushing your base, best thing you can do is chrono boost out your robo, and robo should be making immortals. You're making another observer right now, which is probably the worst thing you could ever be doing. You really like immortals are gods. You need them so bad. If you made immortals and you chrono boosted, and then you also made, let's say, like 3 shield batteries, just put like 2 shield batteries above like the cybernetics core, and maybe like 1 battery like above the forge, or like to the left side of the gateway, or something like that, wherever you can fit it, where it's not going to fuck you up too bad. But shield batteries are going to be so good here at just like keeping your army running the whole time. And then I would say if you're gonna chrono boost immortals, you're totally fine to make sentries. Like I think it's still good. Stalkers are okay, but chrono boosting immortals and making sentries is amazing, because if that was like your plan, is to go for the timing eventually on him anyways. And the way you'd want to micro it is when the Zerg gets to... I'll let the Zerg kind of play here until we get to the point where I would say you need a force field. Again, 2 force fields on the ramp and you can block it out entirely. Imagine right now, if you force fielded right now, okay? And you force fielded the bottom of the ramp. So you locked in 2 Roaches, 1 Ravager, and all of his Zerglings. And then 3 Ravagers and 1 Roach are stuck outside, because you force field literally the base of the ramp. And it cuts, like, between the 2 Ravagers and the 2 Roaches that are touching each other, you put force fields right between those. And you know, now suddenly you just cut his all-in half. And it's guaranteed that you're going to kill these units, because if you had, like, an Immortal here with sentries and a Zealot, you would easily crush all these Zerglings, no problem. They would just die.
Yeah.
They're not even speedlings. They're just slings. They would walk up and they would just fucking fall over. And then the force fields would last long enough to kill the Ravager that is in here already, and the couple Roaches that are in here too, with your Immortal just pounding them as well. And then all you got to do is you got to pay attention to the fact that he has Ravagers, and you have to go, where are you, Corrosive Biling? You can see the marker on the ground of like the big orange circle pulsating before it actually lands, like 2 seconds later. If he casts Corrosive Bile on your force fields to break it, you can immediately reapply it. Like, you know, it's like you can go with the anticipation that you're like, I know those force fields are going to break in like 1.5 seconds now, and I'm going to be paying attention to that. And the second they break, I'm reapplying them immediately. And then now suddenly he's on cooldown with Corrosive Bile, and he can't get his units in or out again, and everything's going to die just like it was before. Or if he Corrosive Biles your army, just move it slightly out of the way for a second and then move right back in. And then your force fields last for like 15 seconds. It's 11 seconds, sorry. 11 seconds. So you have plenty of time to get out of the way for 2 seconds and then go right back in. Still got a good 9 seconds to go with that. And then you can just reapply force fields over force fields. When you're like, you know, getting to that point where you're like, all right, force fields are going to end soon, I'm going to grab more of his army or whatever. If I need more time to kill what's already here and it's really important, that's like a lot of shit still that needs to die, you can reapply current force fields. Or if you're like, let's just say everything died except for 1 Roach, and he still has the Ravagers outside and the Roaches outside, you could be like, all right, I'm gonna let him disappear, and I'm gonna see what he does. Either he runs away, or he recommits to my base again even further, and then next time again when he runs up the ramp again, I force field him just like I did before. Maybe I lock out 1 Ravager and I let the other 2 in and the other Roach in. Or maybe I just let him commit all the way if I'm like, I can easily handle this. And then I prevent him from retreating. You just get a lot of control with sentries, and you can be so patient with them too. Because the whole point of sentries is you just need to know how to use them. And it's like that moment in time that's important, and then everything else is just kind of just like watching it. It's like, oh cool, I'll just chill now while my army just kills you. And that moment in time is just knowing how much to absorb at first, and then making sure that whatever is currently there can't screw you over in some way, like Corrosive Bile. But with this current situation you're in, where you have a sentry and 5 stalkers and a zealot and 2 observers, and no batters.
The position of the buildings, fucks me up so much, because I cannot deal with this. I mean, he can totally ram into my base.
Yeah. the best way I would say you could deal with this, because you really only have like 2 force fields to work with here, and you have like stalkers mostly. The best thing you can do, which sounds crazy, is move the stalkers and the zealot and all your army at first until the ravagers start getting in range to really shoot you, which means you're probably gonna get like literally 1 shot off with your stalkers, and then I would say you should back up. And the reason why you should back up is because it's actually going to be in your best interest if you use the choke point, which is now smaller and tighter, which is your pylons. If you backed up your, like, let's just say you clicked your mineral line right now with all your army. So your sentries and your zealot, your 1 sentry, your zealot, and your 2 stalkers on the bottom went around the bottom of the robo, and your 3 stalkers went around the nexus on the top, and they all went towards the mineral line. And you let all of his lings walk into your base, which sounds fucking scary. But you see his army right now, and it's not that big. And then suddenly he tries to walk his Ravagers in behind it. And right as he walks in, like the first 2 Ravagers, you put a force field right there, right now. And now 2 Ravagers are stuck inside, and like 3 of them, or sorry, the other 2 are stuck outside with maybe a Roach or 2 as well. Because the Roach and Ravager are the only actual scary part of this army, so cutting that in half is important. And it's really hard to cut that in half with only 1 sentry on the ramp. So you want to do it, like, you know, in between your buildings now. Because you're going to kill these things no problem either way. And, you know, and then if you actually lock those in and you kill the 1 or 2 Ravagers in your base, now suddenly his army is way less scary, way less intimidating, and now you can easily just crush it. We'll see how you do it, though. I'll hit play and we'll see how this goes.
It's awful. You'll see.
Yeah, you didn't use the sentry at all. That sentry was the key here to saving your life.
Yeah. I was just picking out. Yeah. So like what I do, and you can see I got supply blocked.
Yeah, for sure. Because if you think about it, if you back up that Zerg player 100%, this is not even like an all-in. This is like he has no reinforcements. Yeah, it's like a timing almost. Because
yeah.
He's got 14 larvae just chilling. He has, well, it might even be an all-in, but he's just not macroing. He has 1,300 minerals and 400 gas, and a lot of larvae to spin, but he's just not doing anything. If you would have, if you would back up, the Zerg's mindset 100% is going to be like, oh, an open door, I'm going to go into that. Ooh, he's opening it. It's very unlikely that he's going to just be like, no. I'm going to back up and just kill your gateway. Like, I doubt it. And then if he does do that as well, you can poke at him with your stalkers. And then you can just take, if he wants to kill a gateway while he loses all of his lings in the process, which is his front line, that's honestly, you should feel fine with that as well. You're like, okay, well, I just lost pretty much equal mineral investment of, you know, gateway to Zergling ratio here. But now you also lost your front line to kill a gate, while I am now going to also start poking your Roach Ravager, which are now more exposed than they were before. And yeah, just you know. And then if you had the sentry still alive, being able to control the army is so good, because here's another way to look at it too. Look at where his Ravagers are right now, and just imagine if you shoved 1 force field in the center of that to where 2 of them were stuck on the outside and 2 of them were stuck on the inside. A Ravager's attack range is 6. A Stalker's attack range is 6, so they're equal. And a force field is worth about 2 range, as like the diameter of a force field is like 2. So essentially what that does is if you have your Stalker's max range from the inside Roach Ravager in your base that's locked in now, the Ravagers on the outside are now about 8 range away from your Stalkers, and they literally can't do anything. You just effectively eliminated like a third of the DPS of his army by putting 1 force field down. So like controlling the positioning of his units is super huge with the sentry. And you just have to like take your time, or take a moment to tell yourself like, what would, like, the perfect force field location is, what would be the minimal investment of force fields for the maximum, you know, effects.
Impact. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's always on choke points. And for if you had more sentries, you totally could have controlled the ramp, because you would have more energy to spin for like 2 at a time, or maybe even 3 at a time, in case you like kind of overlap with force field and you like have a little bit of a gap that is still open. But between your base right here, between the core and the gate, 1 force field easily in the center, and it's just a full block. And even if he like corrosive biles it, that's still like 2 rounds of shots your Stalkers could do before the bile even breaks it. And then, like I said before, if you had a sentry still alive, you could just reapply that force field immediately, and it's square one again for Zerg. And now he's like, oh fuck, now I'm locked in again, and my units are dying. So, just more patience with your your sentry control here would be great. And the last thing too, the biggest thing of all that we talked about briefly for a moment, but we're gonna go back to it more time, is your robo production. Well, scout, sure, yeah, scout's great, but it's your robo production, your observers. If those were immortals instead, that would have been just like so fucking much better for you.
Yeah.
You probably would have won this fight, even with how you microed that. You would have won this fight if you had an immortal. I'm not gonna lie. An immortal, 3 shots of Roach, and it 5 shots of Ravager, basically. It will guaranteed 5-shot of Ravager if it gets hit by 1 Stalker or 1 Zealot or 1 Sentry. The only reason why it wouldn't necessarily 5-shot it though is because it has 1 armor and it has regen, and an immortal does 20 damage to a Ravager, so it's not actually going to be doing effectively that, but it's still going to beat the crap out of it like pretty quickly. But it definitely 3 shots of Roach no matter what. But yeah, it would just be and it's also a massive tank. It has 400 health with the Guardian Shield proc, and a Stalker has 160. A Sentry has 80. So it's just a beast, basically. But yeah, I don't know. We'll let it kind of finish off here. But I feel like you're probably gonna just die.
Yeah. Pretty much done, I think, at this point. Because I cannot get any more units.
I gotta pause it again and just actually say something, because I just want to make sure we're on the same page with this too. Just to reiterate, when you scouted with your probe and you saw he went pool first, and you went for a robo, you shouldn't feel like you have to make an observer as well. Automatically, you should be thinking to yourself, this guy has done something more aggressive than most Zergs. And he also showed you he made a gas. It's not a guarantee he was going to finish it, because you saw it when it was currently in construction. But still, that looks super aggressive. And you should be thinking to yourself, I need immortals and I need them now. Like, that should be like priority number 1 there for you, to make sure you don't die. And then, the sentry thing is like that's not as important as the immortals, but it's super nice to have though, if you can get comfortable microing that. But if you're like, you know what, ViBE, fuck, I don't want to micro sentries. No, not for me. That's not my thing. You could honestly just make Zealot, Stalker, and Immortal, and you'd be fine. You would actually win the game that way as well. I'm not even kidding. Like, if you just went for, like you saturated your probes on 2 bases optimally, and then you just started chrono boosting out Immortals while just going for a Zealot, Stalker, and then you added on more gates as like your natural got more close to fully saturating, so you add on like 5 or 6 gates. I would say less gates this time around because Stalkers are more expensive than Sentries in terms of minerals, so you're not gonna be able to afford it as well. Maybe add on like 6 gates, okay, and then you just make literally as many Stalkers as you can. You run out of gas, and now you start with Stalkers with Immortals, and now the rest of your resources goes into Zealot, whatever you can to fill it up. Fill up your supply with whatever resources you have. You'd win as well doing that in this situation.
Okay, so if I see pull first and a couple of gases, I gotta assume that's gonna be aggression early.
It's mainly because his natural is super delayed.
Uh-huh.
So he has limited, like even if he does expand and you do immortals like this while you're still saturating your natural, you're still ahead. Because it would honestly be like if you decided to go for a 2-base build, but instead of taking your natural at like when you did, which is what, like 110, 120 or something, you take it at like 2 minutes, and you're also not chrono boosting at all. It would be like that. You guys would then have similar economies if you played it like that. Because you got to keep in mind, when he doesn't expand like that, he doesn't have the ability to have queens at 2 hatcheries injecting 2 hatcheries at the same time, because he just doesn't have a hatchery there. And he's also delaying the hatchery entirely too, which means he's missing out on larvae that are just generating for him. So he's definitely got a crippled economy, a crippled infrastructure for the way he opened. And the only way there's a good trade-off there is if he does damage to you. He has to do damage to have it be a positive effect.
Okay.
Get him, probes! Get him!
Yeah, last short.
Oh, you got one.
Last thing. Yeah, but at this moment I was like, okay,
Yeah, you're dead.
I'm done. I mean, the moment I see the Zerlings, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I cannot win this.
So this guy was all-inning you. He just kind of didn't have the best macro as a follow-up because he was so focused on trying to like micro his first attack. And if you just, you know, had the idea of like, okay, this guy's economy is not great. I'm going to go for like, I'm going to have the idea that I'm going to do a follow-up pressure, because the follow-up pressure, if you execute it well, not only shuts down all-ins like this, but it also shuts down Zergs who try to go on the opposite side of the coin where they're like, all right, I opened up aggressively and I didn't really do much with it. So now I'm just going to go completely greedy and try to catch up where I am now behind. If you do a timing, you're just going to crush him if he's been greedy as well. It's like a best of both worlds situation for you as Protoss. It's kind of similar, like for me to relate to it as Zerg. It's similar to when if I expand with Zerg right away, and I have a hatchery at my natural, and the Protoss makes like 5 cannons at my natural, and he doesn't cancel any of them, but they all die, and he gets like really terrible trades and resources lost. He's got like negative 1,600, and I have only negative 300, and I just kicked the shit out of a cannon rush. Like, it just went horrible for him. That's kind of like what happened here for Zerg. Like, he just put himself in a bad spot early with how he opened, compared to how you opened, because you opened with an expansion. He opened up with an early pool, and it literally did almost nothing. So you should feel super confident to be able to do a timing then and just fucking crush him.
Okay.
And again, the reason why I tell you to do a timing is because you're at Robo. It makes sense to go for a timing if you go for a Robo. If you went for like a Stargate, that would be something where I'd be like, all right, maybe now you want to go for like maybe more harassment, maybe like poke some drones, scout them a little bit with an Oracle or something.
Mm-hmm.
But that requires more multitasking, and I would recommend not doing that just because of that simple factor. And if you went for like a Twilight Council, the last one, you could turn it into like a DT timing, or you could turn it into like Archons later, or you could turn it into like just some straight up Twilight Council timing of like Charge Lots or Adept Glaives. Both would be fine, and you could just literally just attack them with a big wave, and then make it like a macro from there or whatever. But against Zerg, sorry, go ahead. I keep interrupting you, but.
Oh no, please. I was going to say that sounds amazing. Those strategies, those follow-ups. Although, as I haven't played those, I probably feel so clumsy. And basically, to give you an idea, I usually go with this standard build with every single race against every single race. So yeah, I mean, I couldn't totally go for another strategies or whatever, but I guess I gotta practice a lot until I got the grip of it. Otherwise, I'm like uncharted territory.
Okay.
I don't know how to play this.
This would be the last thing I would say you could do. I kind of touched on it briefly, but it might be more comfortable for you. If you got in a situation like this where you're just against a Zerg in general, and it doesn't matter if he opens up early or not with a pool or anything like that, you could just open up against Zerg specifically with like 2 Immortals. Just like make 2 Immortals out of your Robo, and then you can make an Observer, and you can make a Robo Bay as well as early as you can. But once you have 2 Immortals, you can start going Colossus, and you can just do like a future Colossus timing. Like, you could go up to like 3 bases, defend yourself, scout him periodically, and make sure you have an idea of what he's doing. Like, maybe he's going Mass Roaches, maybe he's going for a Spire. Figure out what he's doing, and then, you just make Colossus up to, again, a point of like, kind of like how you do against Terran, where you make like 4, and then you go for a big fat fucking timing out of Gateway Colossus.
That sounds like a plan.
That could also be a way, because that way, if you make like 2 Immortals first, it keeps you safe from potential all-ins early, and it will still be, the Immortals will still be useful. They're even more useful against Zerg than they are against Terran, I would say, because there's just so many things that Immortals are just so good against Zerg. But then if you go Colossus, that is more A-move friendly, I would say, for like a higher supply situation. and then you could go into, you know, scout his base, get an idea of his composition, like I said, and then you can decide, do I want to go heavy stalker? You could definitely make more than 10 stalkers against Zerg if you really want to, just in case they're going for air. You could also, I don't know how comfortable you are if like you scout Aspire and you're like, all right, I'm gonna add in a Stargate and go Phoenix or something like that. But
Yeah, I love playing with Phoenixes and against Mutas, and it's so what's the word I'm looking for?
amazing.
Pleasure,
Oh,
delightful, like killing
pleasure.
them while macroing. It's just delightful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. But yeah, those could be some options for you. But yeah, if you're not gonna go, like the final thought I'll leave you with here is you are more than able to do timings against Zerg if you want to. But if you want to play a defensive macro game, Colossus are great because you can do a timing when you hit like 150 supply, when you're much higher in the supply count and you're like your army's looking way bigger, and a lot of Zergs will just die to that, honestly, unless they go Spire. And if they go Spire, one of the best ways you can react to it is if you can scout it before the muta's already attacking your base. So you have a Phoenix hallucination, observer, whatever. The best response to it before it happens is, like you said before, you were comfortable with Phoenix. That's great that you can make Phoenix to deal with it. But in your bases, you can get shield upgrades on your forge then, because you're going to be dealing with a counterattack style Zerg now, and you can make like 2 batteries and like 2 cannons per mineral line you have. And you're just going to be like, wow, this is so easy. Like, mutas fly in, they get caught up on the cannon forever because the shield batteries are there too. And my Phoenix just start pounding them every time they're in my base. And suddenly you're not losing like full mineral lines to being out of position periodically.
Yeah.
And
I really like the timing idea, although I was slightly afraid of doing it early enough and having enough units, but I guess that's comes with time just by trying.
So just know that this would be your gauge to know if you're doing a good or a bad timing for like an early timing. If you make probes non-stop out of your nexus and you saturate 2 bases fully as quick as you can, you literally don't ever stop making probes, even when you're getting attacked by like the Roach Ravager thing that was happening. If you can maintain probe production during that, you would have honestly almost been fully saturated there anyways. Meanwhile, you're chrono boosting out Immortals, and then you're adding on gates as you can afford it, and you're stopping around 6 or 7 gates, and you're just making up to like 6 sentries, and then just going mass stalker or zealot.
Okay.
With that type of thing I was talking about earlier, or you could just not make sentries at all, and then you could just make a stalker zealot. As long as you're making Immortals, that's the big one. You will easily be able to push your opponent when you have 3 Immortals. When you have 3 Immortals, you'll probably have something around like 70 supply with your current situation of probes, Immortals, and the current gateway units you have out of your initial gate you had. And then as you push across the map, you're going to be warping in units like 10 to 12 supply at a time because you have 5 or 6 gates.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's it. And then you just maintain that, and you just kill them.
Awesome.
Just know that chrono boosting Immortals is huge. And then that 3 Immortals is your timing to go attack him.
Okay, pal. Right.
All right. Any other questions about anything, dude?
Right now, I think I had a one a while ago, but I don't know. Like, no, not really.
Okay. All right. Sounds good, man.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, I'll send you a link in Discord probably not in now because I'm streaming still, but when I upload this later, I'll send you Discord. So expect it within like a day, and then it'll be the VOD to the YouTube video that this will be basically, and then you can watch it again if you want.
Sure.
All right, man. Thanks for buying a coaching lesson. It was fun. It was good.
Sure. Thank you very much for the lesson.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later, man. Have a good one.
Talk to you later. You too, man. Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. That's the end of the coaching lesson. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, go check out another one.